Luciano stumbled forward as Señor Esteban Quiroga shoved him so hard the chain around his wrists rattled against his chest. "Stand here," Quiroga ordered, voice sharp enough to cut. "You do not leave this spot. Not to eat? Not to rest? Not to breathe without my permission." Luciano caught his balance with one knee, gripping the shovel to avoid falling. His pulse raced from the hours he had been forced to dig. The grave still gaped behind him, the coffin settled inside but not yet fully covered. He wiped sweat from his forehead with shaking fingers. What is this?" he muttered, almost afraid of his own voice. Quiroga yanked him upright by the collar. "Do not ask. Do not think. Do not wonder." "You guard her," Luciano squinted. "Her? Who?" Before the question finished, Quiroga slammed the wooden shovel handle across his ribs. Luciano gasped, nearly dropping to the ground again. "You speak only when I choose to hear your voice," Quiroga spat. "And I do not choose." Luciano gripped his side, forcing himself to stand straight. He stared down at the coffin he wasn't allowed to open. "I deserve to know who you buried." Quiroga grabbed Luciano by the jaw with a crushing grip. "You deserve nothing. You obey." Luciano strained against his hold. "Then why force me to guard it?" Quiroga leaned close, his breath frantic as though he was the one suffocating. "You were closest to her," he hissed. "That is why?" Luciano blinked, confused. I don't remember anyone close to me?" Quiroga let out a bitter laugh. "Of course you don't. I made sure you forgot." Luciano felt the words like a strike. "Forgot what?" Quiroga shoved him backward until he nearly fell onto the mound of soil. "You forgot her face. You forgot her voice. You forgot because I cut that memory out of your life." Luciano's heart hammered. "Why would you erase a memory from a slave?" Quiroga pressed his pistol to Luciano's chest, forcing him to step back from the grave. "She was not supposed to care about you. And you were not supposed to care about her." Luciano flinched. "You killed someone because she cared for me?" Quiroga's eyelid twitched. "Love is dangerous when it crosses the line between ownership and property." Luciano clenched his fists. "Who was she, Señor?" Quiroga gritted his teeth. "You will not speak her name. You will not try to recall it. You will guard this grave because she belongs to silence now." Luciano stared at him, trying to find an answer in his expression. "If she is dead, why guard her?" Quiroga's voice broke for the first time, trembling with something he tried to swallow down. "Because she did not die obedient." Luciano stepped closer to the grave. "You fear her even now?" Quiroga backed away, his hand gripping the pistol with shaking fingers. "You will not dig more. You will not uncover. You will not move what rests here." Luciano's eyes narrowed. "You think she will return?" Quiroga's face twisted, panic flickering in his eyes. "She will return if the wrong heart calls her back." Luciano turned toward the coffin slowly. A tug inside his chest pulled him closer like a memory trying to surface. A name on the edge of forming on his lips. Quiroga pointed the pistol directly at his head. "If you speak her name, even by accident, I will put you beside her." Luciano swallowed, feeling the answer rise inside him, heavy and familiar. He didn't speak it, but the grave shifted, like something beneath had recognized him first. Luciano jerked awake as Señor Quiroga hurled a lantern at his feet so violently the metal frame clanged against the chain on his ankles. "You stay awake," Quiroga snapped. "If your eyes close, she might open hers." Luciano rubbed his wrists, raw from the restraints. "She's dead, Señor. What can she do?" Quiroga stepped toward him, gripping Luciano's chin firmly, almost fearfully. "You don't understand death," he whispered. "Death is patient, but memory is not." Luciano frowned. "Memory?" Quiroga released him with a shove. "You will not sleep. You will listen." Luciano looked down at the lantern flickering between them. "Listen to what?" "No one is here but us." Quiroga crouched beside the emerging mound of dirt covering the coffin. His voice cracked. "You listen for the moments when she refuses to stay forgotten." Luciano blinked, bewildered. "Forgotten by who?" Quiroga's gaze shot up, fierce and trembling. She was adored by you. Luciano stepped back. I don't remember anyone like that. And you never will, Quiroga hissed. Not while I control the memories you are allowed to keep. Luciano felt his breath catch. You can't control what I feel. I already did, Quiroga snarled, pointing at the grave. That coffin is proof. Before Luciano could speak, a soft knock echoed beneath the dirt. Luciano stiffened. Senor? That wasn't the wind. Someone, Quiroga, slapped him across the mouth. You hear only what I allow. Luciano held his cheek, stunned. You heard it too. I heard nothing, Quiroga responded sharply. He leaned closer as though addressing the grave itself. You will remain silent. Luciano stared at him. You really think she listens? Quiroga didn't look at him. She obeys only when watched. That's why you stay here. That's why you don't sleep. If you sleep, she rises to claim what she was never allowed to keep. Luciano's heartbeat surged. What was she denied? Quiroga's jaw clenched. You, Luciano stepped back, shaking his head slowly. How could she want me? I don't even know her. Quiroga stood, raising the lantern to Luciano's face. You don't remember what you were. You only know the body you work with now. Do you think pain starts in the bone? No, it starts with what we erase. Luciano closed his eyes. What did you erase from me? Quiroga pointed toward the grave, hand trembling. A bond? A choice. A love stronger than obedience. Luciano whispered, half in fear, half in longing. Who is she? Quiroga turned away, refusing to answer. Her name is buried deeper than the coffin. Luciano stared at the soil. Why would you bury something like that? Because love doesn't belong to property, Quiroga said softly, almost pleadingly. Love makes slaves forget their chains. And masters like me forget control. Luciano felt a chill race through his chest. You killed her for loving me? Quiroga's voice hardened again. I killed her because she wanted to free you. And freedom kills order. Luciano looked at the grave, feeling a tug like a voice inside him. Maybe she's not at rest. Quiroga backed away. That's why you stay awake. If she rises for you. And I won't stop what she wants. Luciano swallowed deeply. You fear her more dead than alive. Quiroga turned his back. I fear you remembering. The soil below them pulsed once gentle. Patient almost like breathing, Luciano sensed that the dead didn't whisper to Quiroga. They whispered to him. Luciano jumped back as the mound of soil rose subtly beneath his feet, bulging like something underneath had pressed upward. Someone still alive in there? He shouted. Adrenaline cutting through the exhaustion. Say your Quiroga seized Luciano by the collar and forced him against the grave marker. No one lives down there, Quiroga snarled. Only memory lives, and that is what must stay buried. Luciano shoved him off, breath shaking. A body moving means a soul still fighting. Let me open it. Quiroga slapped his hand away from the shovel. You touch that coffin again and I split your skull. Luciano clenched his jaw. You fear the truth? Quiroga leaned in so close Luciano could see the sheen of sweat above his upper lip. I fear what truth makes slaves do. Luciano blinked, confused. Then tell me what truth she died for. You think truth keeps you alive? Quiroga scoffed. Truth is poison to men like you. It makes you believe you can choose? Luciano stepped forward, fists tightening. If the truth belongs to me, why bury it? Quiroga's expression faltered for the first time, a flicker of desperation crossing his eyes. She was not yours to keep. Luciano frowned deeply. You buried someone who loved me. And I don't even know her name. Quiroga laughed bitterly. You're not meant to remember what your heart can't have. Luciano shook his head. If her memory threatens you this much, then you didn't bury a body. You buried a crime. Quiroga grabbed Luciano's shirt and slammed him toward the edge of the grave. A master has no crimes, only decisions. Luciano yanked himself free, gasping. Then this grave is your decision? To kill love? Quiroga's eyes flashed rage and panic. She betrayed her bloodline. She betrayed me. She betrayed everything that kept this land standing. Luciano stared, stunned. She tried to save us. Quiroga's hands shook violently. She tried to give you something you weren't meant to have. Luciano's voice cracked. Freedom? No, Quiroga whispered, trembling. Equality. Luciano stepped toward the grave again. You killed her because she believed we were equal. Quiroga pointed at Luciano with the pistol, his voice trembling with fury and fear. I killed her because she believed you were equal to her. Luciano felt his chest tighten, as though the words awakened something long silenced within him. She loved me. Quiroga's silence confirmed it. Luciano's voice softened, fragile. Who was she? Quiroga's eyes hardened, but his voice quivered. She was a daughter to wealth, a symbol of lineage. And she threw it away. For you. Luciano looked down at the grave again, feeling warmth well behind his eyes. Not tears yet, but memory trying to claw its way back. Quiroga turned away, as if he refused to witness what he'd just admitted. She was erased. That is all. Luciano pressed his hand against the soil. And yet, she won't stay forgotten. A faint thumping came from beneath. Soft but insistent, like someone politely asking to come inside a locked house, Luciano whispered. She's calling for me. Quiroga spun around, terror flooding his features. No one answers her voice. Not you? Not anyone. Luciano stood upright. You can't bury a promise with dirt. Quiroga backed away slowly, as if the mound itself threatened him. I buried her so that your heart would never rise again. Luciano stared at the grave, pulse heavy, memories unfurling behind his eyes like shadows waking up. The truth Quiroga feared wasn't buried beneath the soil. It was buried inside Luciano, waiting to return. Luciano lunged forward, grabbing Senator Quiroga's wrist as the man stomped more dirt over the grave, pressing it down furiously as though trying to suffocate the dead. Stop burying her deeper, Luciano shouted, tightening his grip, fury rising in his chest. Quiroga yanked his arm free and slapped Luciano with such force his teeth rattled. You let her into your heart once. You don't get to do it again. Luciano held his cheek, stunned. Her heart is still down there. You can't stop it from beating. Quiroga sneered and pointed at Luciano's chest. Her heart cost more than your blood? She forgot her duty. She lowered herself to you. Luciano stepped closer. She didn't lower herself. She chose. Quiroga backhanded him. She disobeyed. Choice is disobedience for someone like her. Luciano wiped the sweat and spit from his lips. Why punish me for her choice? Quiroga grabbed him by the collar. Because you were the reason she failed. Luciano met his eyes. Failed what? Failed to be silent? Quiroga shook him violently. Failed to stay loyal to her name, to her blood, to the life she was born into. Luciano's breathing grew unsteady. Then why call that love betrayal? Because it freed you from the chains in your mind, Quiroga snapped. Luciano swallowed hard. Love freed both of us? Quiroga shoved him away. Love ruined her. Luciano stepped forward again, unafraid now. No, you ruined her. Quiroga stared at him, jaw tight, eyes burning with more than anger. There was something else there, grief, maybe even guilt, wrapped in rage. Luciano dared to speak her name. Was it Isabella? The name sent a tremor through Quiroga's body. His grip tightened on the pistol, his knuckles turning white. You do not say her name. Not even in your mind. She belongs to silence now. Luciano stared, horrified. Then this grave is your silence. Quiroga pointed the pistol toward Luciano's heart. It's yours. Luciano didn't flinch. If I die remembering her, you lose. Quiroga's hand twitched. You remember nothing. You already admitted she loved me, Luciano pressed. Quiroga shook violently. She did not love you. She ruined you. Luciano whispered, Then why do you fear her even dead? Quiroga stepped back. Because the dead don't obey. Luciano slowly lowered his head, gazing at the grave. You think she'd come for me? That's why you want me guarding. She rise for me, not you. Quiroga's lip quivered. She will rise to break everything I built. Luciano's voice softened, barely audible. She just wanted to free us. Quiroga screamed, voice cracking. She wanted to unchain you all. She wanted me to release every worker on this land. She wanted this place torn apart. Luciano stared in disbelief. Is that why you killed her? Quiroga's face twisted as though the truth hurt him more than admitting it. She made me choose between power and her. She left me with nothing but the grave. Luciano spoke gently. Then bury your power. Not her? Quiroga shook his head violently. I buried hope. A soft knock echoed from beneath the earth, not frantic, not desperate, calm, patient, almost forgiving. Luciano felt his breath catch in his throat. He kneeled and pressed his hand flat against the earth as if answering her. Quiroga's voice trembled. Do not call to her. You will awaken what I tried to kill. Luciano's eyes closed. Some things don't die just because you want them gone. The soil beneath his palm warmed like a memory returning. Isabella wasn't haunting Quiroga. She was returning to Luciano. Luciano dropped to his knees and pressed both palms to the grave, as though trying to feel the heartbeat beneath the soil. I'm here, he whispered, voice breaking without permission. Center Quiroga yanked him back by the chain around his neck so hard that Luciano choked, falling onto his back. You do not speak to her. Quiroga shouted, trembling with something deeper than rage. Luciano coughed and clawed at the chain. You buried her alive with love still in her. Quiroga's eyes widened. Don't you dare say she loved you. She belonged to her blood, not to a slave. Luciano climbed to his feet slowly. If she belonged to her blood, you wouldn't fear her memory. Quiroga pointed at him sharply. Love is worthless if it destroys order. Order, Luciano repeated bitterly. Order is a cage. You didn't kill her love, you killed her freedom. Quiroga kicked the shovel toward him. Then here, he said, dig for your freedom. Dig. And I will make sure you join her. Luciano grabbed the shovel and stood still. You're afraid I'll find something you can't control? Quiroga's voice cracked like a whip. I control everything. Life, memory, death. I choose who matters. Luciano stepped toward him, gripping the shovel like a weapon. You didn't control her choice. Quiroga's hand shook as he raised the pistol. She chose wrong. Luciano's voice softened with something deeper than anger. She chose love. Quiroga's breath hitched, not from rage, but from something cracking inside him. She chose pain. For herself. For you. For me. Then why bury her? Luciano asked. Why not let her speak? Quiroga screamed, spitting each word through clenched teeth. Because love makes slaves forget their place. Luciano stared back. Love makes people equal. No. Quiroga snapped, stepping closer. Equality destroys everything built here. You are property. She was legacy. The world requires separation. Luciano lowered the shovel, puzzled. She didn't believe you. Quiroga swallowed. She believed in you. Luciano froze. She did? Quiroga's expression crumbled. She believed you deserved freedom. She believed every one of you deserved a life beyond chains. She begged me. She begged me. To release you all? Luciano took a step forward. She asked you to free us? Quiroga's voice became hollow, as if repeating a nightmare. She said love must never be chained. That we destroy ourselves when we destroy each other. Luciano looked back at the grave, and his eyes softened. She tried to save both of us. Quiroga's jaw trembled, the weight of memory crushing him. She left me with only two choices, lose her or lose everything I owned. He lifted the pistol slightly. I chose the world over her. Luciano felt anger fade into something deeper, grief. Then why force me to guard her? Quiroga stared at the grave. She asked, with her last breath, that you never forget her. Luciano's chest tightened. She said my name. Quiroga nodded once as though it hurt. She whispered, Luciano remembers. Luciano pressed his hands against the dirt again. Then why forbid me to speak her name? Quiroga looked away, tears gathering he refused to shed. Because I could erase her body, but not her place in your heart? Luciano turned to face him, eyes burning. You feared she would rise again through me. Quiroga whispered, defeated, she already has. The soil beneath them pulsed one slow, steady time, not begging, not pleading. Just present, Isabella had not returned for vengeance. She had returned to be remembered. Luciano pressed his fingertips into the cracking soil and felt it shift beneath him, as though someone inside the coffin had turned slightly in response to his touch. She knows I'm here, he whispered. Senor Quiroga stomped onto Luciano's hand with his boot, grinding bone against dirt. She knows nothing now. He snapped. Luciano winced but did not pull away. Then why do you fear her voice? Quiroga leaned harder, voice trembling. She has no voice. Luciano slowly slid his hand free, dragging his skin against the earth instead of pulling away from Quiroga. He looked up, calm despite the pain. You silenced her when she lived. You want to silence her still? Quiroga stepped back, pistol shaking. She was a whisper in this house. Quiet, obedient, soft. Luciano's brows knitted. Isabella? Obedient? She was meant to be, Quiroga said through his teeth. A daughter should bend to her father's will. Luciano stood slowly. She wasn't bending. She was breaking. Quiroga pointed the gun at his chest. You don't get to speak about her strength. Luciano raised the shovel slightly, not as a threat, but as if leaning on it. She gave me strength. You tried to take hers? Quiroga's hand trembled so violently he lowered the gun to steady it. You would not have listened to her if she hadn't loved me? Luciano finished. Quiroga looked torn between hatred and sorrow. She believed that loving you meant saving you. Luciano nodded. Love frees. Quiroga shook his head violently. Love destroys. Authority, obedience, hierarchy, all of it. Luciano tightened his grip on the shovel. You destroyed because you feared losing control, not losing her. Quiroga's voice cracked. I feared losing everything. She wanted to free everyone, Luciano, everyone. Do you know what happens when the workers walk away? When the fields stand empty? Luciano stared back, unflinching. The world changes, and I would rather bury a daughter than bury this land, Quiroga whispered. Luciano felt sick. You chose power over her. Quiroga swallowed, voice lowering into pain. I chose survival. Hers was a dream that would have cost the lives of every master in this world. Freedom kills the powerful. Then she died to save us, Luciano said. Quiroga looked at the grave, unable to speak for a long moment. She died believing her death would free you. And it didn't. You are still chained. Still mine. Luciano stepped between Quiroga and the grave. You chained her to silence. You chained me to her memory. And now the memory refuses to die. Quiroga shouted, She died for nothing. Luciano shook his head. She died so I would remember. Quiroga raised the pistol again. Then let her memory die with you. Luciano lowered the shovel and opened his arms wide, offering himself. Then shoot. But you will never bury what I remember now. Quiroga's eyes widened, body shaking so intensely he could barely steady the gun. You think memory is stronger than death? Luciano looked down at the grave, his voice full of certainty. Memory is what death can't touch. Quiroga aimed, ready to pull the trigger, but a soft sound rose from below. Like a breath against wood, both men froze, Luciano whispered. She remembers too. Quiroga stepped back in horror, pistol lowering by itself from his trembling hand. She won't stay buried, Esteban, Luciano said calmly. Not because she rises, but because I do. The soil pushed upward again, gentle but undeniable. The grave declared the truth more loudly than either man could speak. Luciano slammed his fist onto the dirt directly above the coffin, not in anger, but as though he were knocking on a door that belonged to him. Isabella, he shouted. I won't leave you. Senor Quiroga lunged forward and threw Luciano to the ground, pinning him with a knee pressed hard into his spine. You will leave her exactly as I commanded, Quiroga bellowed. Dead, forgotten, buried without a voice. Luciano strained beneath him, gasping. You've buried her voice only to be haunted by it. Quiroga gripped the back of Luciano's neck. I am haunted by foolishness, hers and yours. She believed she could break everything I built. Luciano twisted his body, managing to shove Quiroga off with a burst of strength. She tried to free us because she believed we were more than what you owned. Quiroga stumbled back, breathing erratically. She believed in things that destroy order. Look around you. Without obedience, there is nothing but chaos. Luciano slowly stood, face flushed with pain and fury. Freedom is not chaos. You are just afraid of living without chains to pull. Quiroga's eyes filled with a hatred that fought desperately against sorrow. You don't understand what she risked. She chose you over her bloodline. She chose a life of ruin for both of you. Luciano stepped closer. And you punished her for loving what you did not control. Quiroga pointed the pistol again, hands shaking uncontrollably. She loved you. That was her downfall. You were her corruption, her undoing, her weakness. Luciano held out his hands, palms open. If her love was weakness, why does it still terrify you? Quiroga's voice cracked. She made me love her more than my legacy. She made me choose between her and everything this house stood for. Luciano went still. She asked you to choose her? Quiroga nodded, eyes burning with unshed tears. She said she would destroy every wall, every rule, every chain. She said she would put a flame to this land if that's what it took to free you. Luciano lowered his voice, raw with emotion. And you extinguished her. Quiroga's voice became hollow. I extinguished hope, not her. Luciano clenched his fists. Then that grave holds more than a body? It holds what you feared. Quiroga spit out the words. I feared a world where a slave and a daughter stood side by side, equal, united. Luciano nodded slowly. You feared change? Quiroga shook his head violently. I feared a future where I had to answer for my cruelty, where those I owned could speak their worth, where you stood beside her like a man, not a tool? Luciano whispered, She died seeing me as a man. Quiroga whispered back, voice trembling beyond control. She died seeing me as a monster. Luciano stamped his foot against the grave. Then let me open it, let me see her. No, Quiroga roared. If you see her face again, you will remember everything I forced you to forget. Luciano looked him in the eye. Then I choose memory. Quiroga stumbled back, pistol lowering like a defeated limb. You will lose yourself to grief. You will break under what she left you. Luciano placed his hand over his heart. I would rather break with truth than exist in chains of ignorance. The dirt beneath them surged once more, firmer this time, like a heartbeat responding to Luciano's choice. Quiroga covered his ears, shaking. Stop calling to her. Luciano leaned down, pressing his ear against the soil. She already hears me. The ground throbbed again, and for the first time, Quiroga's body sagged with true despair. Isabella did not need to rise. Luciano's memory was rising in her place. Luciano's hands trembled as he dug with bare fingers, each handful of soil flinging memories into the air. Hold still, Isabella, he whispered, as if she could feel him beneath the dirt. I'm coming. Senator Quiroga lurched toward him, eyes wild, hands trembling. You do not touch her. She lies where she must remain. Luciano ignored him, scraping at the soil with relentless precision. She asked me to see her truth. She asked me to know what they buried from us. Quiroga's voice rose, brittle and jagged. They buried her body to silence you. You were meant to watch, to obey. Luciano paused, letting a fragment of dirt fall through his fingers. I was meant to obey your cruelty. But I've learned the silence beneath the soil has its own voice. Quiroga stepped closer, his hands shaking, striking the ground. Listen to me. This is not for you. You are not meant to know. Luciano lifted his gaze, eyes burning, voice firm despite exhaustion. I have always been meant to know. Every whisper, every shadow, every lie you hid, I've seen it. A subtle shift came from the grave, a faint hollow echo as if someone, or something, answered. Luciano froze, chest pounding. I hear her, he whispered. And she tells me what you fear. Quiroga's jaw tightened, fists clenching. She will remain beneath, silent. You will never free her. Luciano dug faster, soil clinging to sweat-slicked arms. Silence is not absence. Her presence speaks to me. Quiroga lunged and grabbed his shoulder. Stop, you cannot defy me. Luciano yanked free, stepping back, eyes narrowing. I defied you the moment you buried her secrets instead of letting her live. A faint cracking sound came from beneath the mound. Luciano pressed both hands against the earth. Do you hear it? She's still here. Still calling. Still teaching me the truth? Quiroga staggered, muttering under his breath. You will break. You will regret. Luciano's gaze hardened. No regret. Only clarity. Every cruel choice you made, every command, every order to silence me, it ends tonight. The soil beneath his hands shifted suddenly, almost as if acknowledging him. Luciano's chest rose with urgency, his heart echoing in his ears. She trusted me to know, to act, to remember, he whispered. Quiroga stepped closer again, voice quivering. You cannot undo what is done. You are too late. Luciano stood fully, knees caked in dirt, back straight. I am never too late. I carry her now in memory and mind and heart, and you carry only guilt. A faint, almost imperceptible sound rose from the grave, like a whisper threading between the words. Luciano tilted his ear closer, eyes closing. She forgives, he said softly. But I do not forget. Quiroga's face turned pale, veins pressing at his temples. She forgives? Luciano nodded, voice gaining strength. Yes, and she guides me. She shows me how to take justice without spilling blood, without vengeance, only truth and remembrance. Quiroga shook his head violently, stepping backward, faltering. No, you cannot. You are not meant to. She is mine. Luciano's hand pressed flat against the earth, fingers splayed over the cold soil. Her life was never yours to command, but now her memory commands us both. I know, and I will act. And you will watch what your cruelty has created. The soil shifted again, firm beneath him, almost alive. Luciano straightened, eyes locked on Quiroga. She whispers, the end of your control is here. Quiroga fell to his knees, voice cracking into a strangled plea. Stop, stop. You don't understand. Luciano did understand. He stepped back, chest rising and falling, a quiet fire burning in his gaze. She is not here to be feared. She is here to be remembered. A single whisper seemed to thread between them. Almost audible, justice rises from silence. Luciano stepped away from the mound, leaving Quiroga trembling beside it, and the first true shadow of reckoning settling over them both. Luciano pressed his palms into the soil above the grave, trembling as he felt a subtle movement beneath. Isabella, he whispered, barely audible. If you're still here, let me know. Senator Quiroga's hand shot out, gripping Luciano's shoulder, almost knocking him off balance. You've gone too far? Quiroga hissed. This is not yours to meddle with. Luciano straightened, holding Quiroga's gaze with a new strength. It was never yours to control, he said softly. Yet every word carried the weight of months of suffering and silent observation. Quiroga's face twisted in anger. But there was a tremor beneath the fury, an uncertainty he could not hide. You don't understand what lies beneath. You never will. Luciano leaned closer to the grave, pressing an ear against the hard earth. I understand more than you think. I've listened. I've waited. And I've learned. A faint, almost imperceptible vibration ran through the soil. Luciano's eyes widened. You hear it too, don't you? He asked, voice low. Quiroga flinched, stepping back. Silence, he barked. There is nothing to hear. Only what you imagine. Luciano's hands moved over the soil, feeling the subtle contours of what was buried. Not imagination, presence, she is here. And you cannot command her anymore. Quiroga's eyes darted nervously. You think her death is your advantage? Her body lies beneath your fingers, but her will was mine. Luciano's lips pressed into a thin line. You thought you could bury her spirit with her body. You thought control over the grave meant control over memory. You were wrong. He withdrew his hands for a moment and met Quiroga's trembling gaze. I see it now. The way you've controlled us, the fear, the silence, it was all to shield yourself from her truth. You feared justice even in death. Quiroga's jaw tightened. She was nothing but a weakness I could not afford. Luciano shook his head. Weakness? No, she was courage. And her courage chose me. The soil beneath him shifted again, just enough to make Luciano's heart leap. A whisper seemed to rise, almost audible. Luciano. Quiroga clapped a hand over his mouth, eyes wide. Stop! Stop it! Luciano's hand hovered above the grave. I cannot stop it. I won't stop it. You buried her, but you cannot bury her name. You cannot bury the truth. And the truth is rising. The ground thumped lightly, in rhythm with the unspoken heartbeat of memory and vengeance. Quiroga backed away, stumbling as if the invisible weight of what he had done pressed upon him physically. Luciano knelt, pressing both hands into the soil as if to commune with something unseen. She wanted you to see, he murmured. She wanted the last lie to fall before the truth could speak. Quiroga's lips quivered, the facade of control finally cracking. You dare speak of her will as if it belongs to you. Luciano's gaze was unflinching. It does now. Not because I claim it, but because she gave it to me, and her gift is not vengeance. It is revelation. A final tremor ran through the grave. Luciano froze, then slowly lifted his hands. A small, folded note pressed into the dirt, previously hidden, revealed by the shifting soil. He picked it up carefully, reading silently. Quiroga sank to his knees, voice shaking. Do you see? Do you see what you've unleashed? Luciano's lips curved slightly, quiet yet filled with gravity. I see that you cannot hide from her memory, and I see that your reign of fear ends tonight. The note trembled in his hands, holding secrets that would forever shift the power between master and servant. And for the first time, Quiroga's eyes reflected true fear. The fear of a truth that could not be buried. Luciano finally understood. The grave did not hold Isabella. It held the power she entrusted to him. The ground beneath them was still, yet everything had changed. Luciano dropped to his knees beside the grave, hands tracing the outline of the mound as if it could speak to him directly. Isabella, I found you, he murmured, voice low but unwavering. Your Quiroga lurched forward, face pale, arms trembling. You cannot. You were never meant to. Luciano raised a finger, pressing it gently against Quiroga's chest. I was meant to obey you. And I did. Every day I watched. Every night I endured. But obedience does not mean ignorance. I know now. Quiroga staggered, clutching the soil, eyes wild, veins on his forehead throbbing. Leave it. Leave her buried. She belongs beneath. Luciano lifted a small, weathered bundle from the soil. It was fragile, tightly bound, a token of memory, a locket, a scrap of her clothing, something Isabella had left behind. He held it close to his chest. She never belonged to you. You tried to silence her in life. I will not allow her silence in death. Quiroga's hands shook violently, trying to snatch it. Hand it over. I command you. Luciano let him reach, letting his trembling fingers brush the bundle, and then slowly, deliberately drew it back. This is her story, her voice, her truth, and you will not touch it. A faint rustling came from the earth beneath the grave. Luciano's pulse quickened, and Quiroga froze, eyes darting to the mound. You hear it? Quiroga gasped. She speaks, Luciano said softly. Through memory, through presence. And through me. Luciano opened the bundle, revealing a small, delicate figurine. A miniature of Isabella, with tiny etchings representing her life, her laughter, her dreams. He placed it carefully on the grave. Each piece of her that you tried to bury, I have uncovered. Every stolen memory, every cruel order you gave, I see it now. I carry it with me. Quiroga's knees hit the ground. His voice shook with desperation. You are not meant to hold this power. You do not understand the curse you awaken. Luciano's gaze never wavered. Power? No, I have no desire to curse. I only seek truth. I only seek justice. Slowly he knelt, hands pressed over the earth, eyes closing. He whispered a single sentence, low but clear. May the memory of all stolen lives guide me, and may their silences speak louder than fear. The ground beneath the mound shifted gently, settling in a quiet, firm motion as though acknowledging his words. Luciano felt a strange calm, the weight of years of injustice easing from his shoulders. Quiroga's panic did not abate, but it faltered in the face of something deeper. Something he could not command. Luciano stood, holding the figurine carefully in one hand. He turned to Quiroga, who cowered like a child exposed to truth too large to bear. You wanted control? You wanted obedience. You buried her to keep me silent. But silence has its own power. And now I speak. Quiroga's lips quivered, face pale, chest heaving. Stop, stop. You cannot. Luciano shook his head slowly, eyes calm and piercing. It is done. I have seen. I have heard. And I have remembered. Your cruelty ends here. He placed the figurine back into the earth gently, pressing it down. The grave seemed to hold it as if it belonged there, but now it was not a prison, it was a testament. A witness. A truth no longer buried. Luciano took a step back, breathing slowly, chest rising with new purpose. Some truths don't stay buried, he said aloud, voice steady. Especially the ones built on cruelty. And those who tried to hide them will carry the weight of their own silence forever. Quiroga sank to his knees, broken, powerless, the years of control and terror unraveling in front of him. Luciano's eyes lingered on him, not with hatred, but with the quiet strength of someone who had endured, witnessed, and now stood victorious, not through violence, but through understanding, awareness, and unwavering justice. He turned away from the grave, holding the memory of Isabella close, and walked slowly into the uncertain light of what came next, leaving Quiroga to face the consequences of his own cruelty, fully exposed and utterly human.